"Graduation parties aren't for lazy people like you," the professor said in front of everyone. 10 years later, they crossed paths again. Sitting at her classroom desk, Hannah was lost in a maze of thoughts. The clock on the wall seemed to tick slower than ever, as if each tick was prolonging her stay in a place where memories and emotions intertwined. The school's walls, which once provided her with a sense of security, now seemed threatening, as if they were pushing her toward a world for which she didn't feel prepared. The schoolyard, visible from the classroom window, was bustling with life. Students played and laughed, oblivious to the cloud of uncertainty hanging over Hannah. Graduation was approaching quickly, a massive wave threatening to sweep her away from the familiar environment she knew and cast her into the vast and unknown ocean of adulthood. Hannah knew that many of her classmates already had defined plans: universities, scholarships, jobs. But for her, the future remained a mystery, a blank canvas filled with intimidating possibilities. It wasn't that she lacked ambition. Her dreams of attending university and building a better life were as vivid as anyone else's. However, financial limitations kept her chained, like invisible shackles dragging her down. Her family had faced hard times since her father, Richard, lost his job as a truck driver. The situation worsened when he, overwhelmed by despair, turned to alcohol for relief, a path that eventually led to his death. The loss of her father was a devastating blow, not only because of the emotional void he left behind, but also because of the financial chaos he plunged his family into. Hannah's mother, trapped in the same cycle of alcoholism that had ensnared Richard, began selling household items to support her addiction. Hannah watched with sadness and frustration as her mother fell apart, yearning for the days when her family was happy and functional. Each item sold not only represented a material loss, but also another piece of her past fading away. Eventually, the situation became unsustainable, and social services intervened. They recognized that Hannah's mother was unable to provide a safe and stable environment, and the closest option was to place Hannah in a care center. The news hit like a bucket of cold water, but just when it seemed there was no hope, her grandmother appeared. Despite her limited financial means, Hannah's grandmother offered to be her legal guardian. Her love and determination convinced social services, who finally agreed to let Hannah live with her. Although modest, her grandmother's home was filled with love and security, providing the refuge Hannah desperately needed. As the sun began to set, casting orange and purple hues across the sky, Hannah looked out the classroom window, her thoughts intertwined with the day's memories and emotions. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but the determination in her heart began to strengthen. With her grandmother's unconditional love and a spark of hope inside her, Hannah prepared to face the giant wave approaching, determined not to be swept away without a fight. The school's murmur continued around her, but Hannah barely noticed it. Her mind was occupied with thoughts about the future, a series of blurred images and possibilities that made her feel both hopeful and fearful. In her heart, Hannah had always dreamed of attending university. She imagined a world full of knowledge, new experiences, and the chance to build a better life for herself and her family. However, those dreams seemed to recede further each day. Money was an insurmountable barrier. The costs of tuition, books, and even transportation felt like mountains impossible to climb. Hannah had looked into scholarships and financial aid, but even with those supports, her family's financial limitations made everything seem out of reach. She lived with her grandmother in a small apartment, barely sufficient to cover daily needs. Her grandmother, a woman of indomitable spirit, worked long hours at a local store to keep them afloat. Although Hannah knew her grandmother would do anything to help her achieve her dreams, she was also aware that she couldn't place that burden on her. As the days passed and graduation drew near, Hannah felt a growing anxiety. At school, the pressure was palpable. Classmates excitedly talked about their future plans, sharing news about universities, jobs, and trips. Hannah felt increasingly isolated, as if she were living in a parallel world where those dreams were just that, dreams. One day, during a conversation at recess, Hannah overheard her classmates discussing their aspirations. Darla, one of the most popular girls, mentioned her acceptance into a prestigious university abroad. Another boy, Luis, spoke enthusiastically about a sports scholarship he had received. Hannah remained silent, smiling and nodding, but inside, a knot of frustration and sadness formed. "And you, Hannah? Where are you going after graduation?" Darla asked, with a smile that, though well-intentioned, only made Hannah feel more exposed. Hannah hesitated for a moment before responding. "I'm not sure yet," she finally said, trying to sound casual. "I'm exploring some options." Darla nodded, apparently satisfied with the answer, and the conversation continued. But for Hannah, the question echoed in her mind for the rest of the day. What options did she really have? How could she reach her dreams when every day seemed to present new obstacles? That night, while helping her grandmother prepare dinner, Hannah couldn't help but express her concerns. "Grandma, have you ever felt like your dreams were out of reach?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her grandmother paused for a moment, her eyes filled with understanding and wisdom. "Many times, Hannah," she replied gently. "But dreams aren't achieved overnight. They require hard work, patience, and sometimes sacrificing more than you think possible. What's important is not giving up." Hannah nodded, absorbing her grandmother's words. She knew she was right, but that didn't make the challenges any less daunting. However, at that moment, she decided not to let fear and uncertainty stop her. She would start seeking opportunities, work harder, and find a way to achieve her goals, no matter how difficult they seemed. With that thought, Hannah went to bed that night with a renewed spark of hope in her heart. She knew the path would be arduous, but with determination and her grandmother's support, she was ready to face it. Dreams might be elusive, but they were not impossible. Hannah was determined to prove that with enough perseverance, she could make her aspirations a reality. The first light of dawn filtered through the windows, gently illuminating the modest apartment Hannah shared with her grandmother. It was a quiet morning, but in Hannah's heart, the painful memories remained alive, like scars that never fully healed. The loss of her father and her mother's decline had left a deep mark on her life, shaping who she was and the future she was trying to build. Richard, her father, had been a strong and hard-working man. As a truck driver, he spent long hours on the road, but always found time to be with his family. Hannah fondly remembered the nights when he would come home, tired but with a smile on his face, ready to tell stories of his travels and listen to how her day at school had been. Her mother, during those times, would prepare special dinners to celebrate his return, and the house would be filled with laughter and love. However, the stability of their life began to crumble when Richard lost his job. The transport company he worked for shut down suddenly, leaving him without employment and clear prospects. The pressure of not being able to support his family began to weigh on him, and gradually desperation led him to alcoholism. Hannah remembered how at first her father tried to stay strong. He promised that everything would get better, that he would find another job, and that they would be happy again. But with each passing day without success, his hope faded. Alcohol became his refuge, a way to escape the reality that consumed him. The transformation was painful to witness. A man, once full of life and love, reduced to a shadow of himself. The situation at home became tense and volatile. Arguments between her parents became more frequent, often ending in shouting and tears. Hannah tried to find refuge in her room, drowning out the noise with her books and schoolwork, but the pain and sadness were impossible to ignore. The tension reached its peak when Richard, weakened by his addiction and depression, passed away. His death was a devastating blow to Hannah, leaving her with a void that seemed impossible to fill. After her father's death, the situation only worsened. Hannah's mother, consumed by her own pain and addiction, began selling household items to sustain her alcohol consumption. What was once a warm and welcoming home now felt empty and sorrowful. Each item sold represented not only a material loss, but also a piece of Hannah's happy past disappearing. Social services intervened at just the right moment. With Hannah's mother unable to provide a safe environment, the closest option was to place Hannah in a care center. The idea of leaving her home, no matter how chaotic it was, filled Hannah with fear and uncertainty. But just when it seemed everything was lost, her grandmother appeared like a ray of hope. Despite her own financial limitations, Hannah's grandmother offered to be her legal guardian. With unshakable determination, she promised to provide Hannah with a home full of love and stability. Social services, initially reluctant due to the grandmother's economic situation, ultimately accepted seeing her commitment and love for Hannah. Moving to her grandmother's home marked the beginning of a new chapter in Hannah's life. Although the apartment was small and modest, it felt like a safe haven, far from the chaos and sadness that had dominated her life in recent years. Hannah's grandmother, with her wisdom and unconditional love, offered the stability Hannah so desperately needed. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Hannah prepared herself to face a new day. She knew the path ahead would be challenging, but with her grandmother's support and a renewed spark of hope, she was determined to move forward. Her family's fall from grace had left deep scars, but it had also strengthened her, giving her a fierce resolve to build a better future. Hannah looked at herself in the mirror and saw a young woman with eyes full of determination. She knew that despite the adversities, she had the strength to overcome any obstacle. With the memory of her father and her grandmother's steadfastness in her heart, Hannah set out to face the day, ready to take control of her destiny and prove that, with enough perseverance, she could achieve her dreams. One afternoon, while Hannah was doing her homework, her grandmother approached with a warm smile and a book in hand. "This book helped me a lot when I was young," she said, handing it to Hannah. "I hope you find the same inspiration in it that I did." Hannah took the book and opened it, finding words of wisdom and hope between its pages. As she read, she felt each word strengthening her resolve to reach her dreams. She knew that although the road would be tough, she had the strength and support needed to overcome it. That night, Hannah went to bed with her heart full of gratitude and hope. The hardships of the past had left scars, but they had also made her stronger. With her grandmother by her side and a new sense of purpose, Hannah was ready to face any challenge that came her way. The future remained uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Hannah felt she had control over her destiny. The next morning, the sun bathed the small kitchen of the apartment in golden light, creating a warm and cozy atmosphere. Hannah woke up feeling a peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. The sound of birds and the soft murmur of distant traffic were signs of a new beginning. Life with her grandmother, though simple, was a refuge that gave her strength to face the future. Hannah's grandmother, a woman with weathered hands and eyes full of wisdom, was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Her smile, always kind and serene, was a constant reminder that Hannah was not alone. The table was carefully set, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. "Good morning, dear," said her grandmother, as she placed a jug of milk on the table. "Did you sleep well?" Hannah nodded, grateful for the warmth in her grandmother's voice. "Yes, Grandma. Thank you." As they had breakfast, Hannah thought about how lucky she was to have her grandmother. Despite their financial struggles, her grandmother always found a way to make each day special. Her stories of the past and practical wisdom were a constant source of inspiration and guidance for Hannah. After breakfast, Hannah helped her grandmother with the house chores. The small apartment, though modest, was always clean and orderly. Hannah's grandmother was meticulous, teaching her the importance of keeping a home welcoming and organized. They worked together, talking about their dreams and hopes for the future. "Grandma, did you ever regret not doing something in your life?" Hannah asked as they cleaned the living room. Her grandmother paused for a moment, reflecting. "Not really," she replied with a smile. "Every choice I made led me to where I am now. And though there were tough times, I always found a reason to keep going. The most important thing is to live with integrity and love, and that's something I've never regretted." Hannah absorbed her grandmother's words, feeling a renewed determination. She wanted to live her life in a way that one day she could look back without regrets, knowing she had done everything possible to achieve her dreams. School remained a challenge, but now Hannah had a new sense of purpose. With her grandmother's support, she began to dedicate more time to her studies. She spent hours in the library, researching scholarships and opportunities that would allow her to continue her education. The sun shone brightly over the schoolyard, but Hannah felt a cloud of anxiety hanging over her. The planning for the graduation party was in full swing, and she had volunteered to help. She wanted to be part of this special moment, contributing in some way even though she knew the party itself might be beyond her financial reach. The classroom was filled with excitement as students discussed decorations, music, and event details. Hannah felt excited to be part of something positive, something that could give her a sense of normalcy amid her personal challenges. However, Mrs. Lewis seemed to have a different mission. From the first day, the teacher had been harsh with Hannah, always finding ways to belittle her. In this planning meeting, it was no different. Hannah raised her hand, nervous but determined to share her ideas. "I think we could use hanging lights to create a magical atmosphere in the gym," Hannah suggested, her voice firm but tinged with insecurity. Before the others could respond, Mrs. Lewis intervened. "Hannah, maybe you should focus on more realistic things," she said dismissively. "I doubt you can even afford a proper dress for the party, let alone contribute to the decorations." The room fell silent. Students exchanged uncomfortable glances, some of astonishment, others of pity. Hannah felt as if the ground had opened beneath her. Mrs. Lewis's words were like daggers, cutting deeply into her self-esteem. Heat rose to her face and her eyes filled with tears. Unable to contain her humiliation and sadness, Hannah abruptly stood up and ran out of the classroom. The school hallway, usually bustling with life, seemed like an empty tunnel as Hannah ran, trying to escape the shame that consumed her. Xavier, who had witnessed the scene, didn't hesitate to follow her. "Hannah, wait!" he shouted as he ran after her. Hannah finally stopped in a secluded corner, tears flowing freely. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees and trying to regain her composure. Xavier caught up with her, breathing heavily, and crouched beside her. "Why does it always have to be like this, Xavier?" Hannah asked through sobs. "Why do I have to prove to everyone that I'm worth something?" Xavier looked at her with empathy and determination. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone, Hannah. You are worth far more than they think. And I'm here to remind you of that." Hannah looked up, finding comfort in Xavier's sincere eyes. She felt a mix of gratitude and desperation. "Thank you, Xavier," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "I'll always be here for you, Hannah," Xavier replied with a warm smile. "Come on, don't let someone like Mrs. Lewis bring you down. You're much stronger than that." With Xavier's support, Hannah felt a little stronger. She knew she would have to face Mrs. Lewis and her classmates again, but with friends like Xavier and her grandmother's unconditional love, she was determined to keep moving forward. The public humiliation had been a painful blow, but it wouldn't be enough to stop her. That evening, when Hannah got home, she was still shaken by what had happened at school. With a trembling voice, she explained to her grandmother how Mrs. Lewis had humiliated her in front of her classmates. Her grandmother, upon hearing the story, was outraged. "I won't allow anyone to treat you like that, Hannah," she said firmly. "I'm going to talk to that teacher." Hannah, though touched by her grandmother's reaction, calmed her. "No, Grandma, thank you, but I want to show Mrs. Lewis that she's wrong. I'll work very hard and prove to everyone that I can overcome any obstacle." Her grandmother, moved by Hannah's resolve, decided to support her in a more concrete way. With a determined gesture, she went to the sofa and took out an envelope from between the cushions. It was an envelope with money she had been saving for years, reserving it for emergencies. "This money is for you, Hannah," her grandmother said with a warm smile. "Use it to create a better life. I know you'll do great things." Hannah, with tears in her eyes, hugged her grandmother with gratitude. "Thank you, Grandma. I promise I won't let you down." That night, Hannah went to bed feeling stronger and more determined. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but with her grandmother's support and friends like Xavier, she was ready to face any challenge. The humiliation had been just another obstacle, and Hannah was determined to overcome it and prove her worth. The next morning, Hannah woke up with renewed determination. The incident with Mrs. Lewis still hurt, but the conversation with her grandmother and Xavier's support had given her a new perspective. She realized that instead of letting cruel words bring her down, she could use them as motivation to demonstrate her true potential. At school, Hannah headed straight to Mrs. Lewis's office. Although her heart was pounding and she felt a knot in her stomach, her resolve was firm. She knocked gently on the door and waited to be invited in. "Come in," came Mrs. Lewis's voice from the other side. Hannah took a deep breath and entered the office. The teacher looked up from her papers with an expression of surprise and disdain. "What do you need, Hannah?" Mrs. Lewis asked, clearly uninterested in extending the conversation. Hannah gathered her courage and looked Mrs. Lewis in the eyes. "I want to apologize for running out yesterday, but I also want you to know that your words hurt me deeply. I might not have the money to buy an expensive dress for graduation, but that doesn't define my worth or abilities." Mrs. Lewis seemed taken aback by Hannah's honesty, but she said nothing. "I'm going to work very hard to prove you wrong," Hannah continued, her voice steady. "I will show that even if I come from a difficult background, I am capable of achieving great things. I hope you can see that." Without waiting for a response, Hannah turned and left the office. She felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. She knew it was just the beginning of a long journey, but with the support of her grandmother and friends, she was ready to face it. Over the following weeks, Hannah threw herself into her studies with even more dedication. She took advantage of every opportunity to learn and grow, focusing on her goals and the future she wanted to build. Despite the ongoing challenges, Hannah's spirit remained unbroken, fueled by her grandmother's encouragement and her own unwavering determination. As the end of the school year approached, Hannah prepared for graduation with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew that while her journey was far from over, she had already made significant strides toward her dreams. The graduation party, despite its modesty, symbolized a new beginning and a step toward a brighter future. Hannah was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing she had the strength and support to succeed. The night of graduation arrived, and the school gymnasium was decorated with lights and colorful bihanas. Hannah's heart raced with a blend of anticipation and nerves as she entered the gym, her grandmother by her side. Despite her modest dress, Hannah carried herself with grace and pride. Xavier greeted her with a warm smile, and together they celebrated this milestone. As Hannah looked around the room, she felt a sense of accomplishment. The journey had been tough, but she had made it through with resilience and support. Hannah knew that this was only the beginning of her journey. With the lessons she had learned and the people who believed in her, she felt ready to face the future head-on. The road ahead might still be challenging, but Hannah was determined to make the most of every opportunity and continue working toward her dreams. Over the next few weeks, Hannah immersed herself in her studies with unwavering dedication. She spent hours in the library, researching scholarships and opportunities that would allow her to continue her education. Hannah's grandmother also supported her every step of the way, making sure she had everything she needed to focus on her goals. One afternoon, while Hannah was reviewing her notes in the library, Xavier approached her with a smile. "Hi, Hannah. I heard you're looking for scholarships. Would you like some help?" Hannah smiled, grateful for his ongoing support. "Thanks, Xavier. I could use some help. There are so many options that I sometimes feel overwhelmed." Xavier sat down next to her, and they began working together. With his help, Hannah was able to better organize her search and find several scholarships that matched her profile. She felt like each day she was taking a step closer to her dreams, and the constant presence of Xavier and her grandmother gave her the strength to keep moving forward. At home, Hannah's grandmother noticed the change in her granddaughter. "You're working so hard, dear," she said one evening during dinner. "I'm very proud of you." Hannah smiled, feeling a warmth in her heart. "Thank you, Grandma. I couldn't do it without you and Xavier. You both are my inspiration." The morning sun filled the small apartment with a soft, golden light. Hannah woke up feeling a mix of excitement and responsibility. The envelope her grandmother had given her the night before, filled with money saved over the years, was more than just financial help. It was a symbol of her grandmother's faith and unconditional love. Sitting at the kitchen table, Hannah examined the contents of the envelope. It wasn't a fortune, but it represented a huge sacrifice on her grandmother's part. Hannah knew she needed to use that money wisely. With renewed determination, she began planning her next steps. Hannah decided that the best way to honor her grandmother's sacrifice was to invest in her education. She thoroughly researched scholarships and financial aid programs and applied to all that matched her profile. She spent hours in the library filling out forms and writing essays, detailing her story and her dreams for the future. One afternoon, while working on one of the applications, Xavier approached her in the library. "Hi, Hannah. How's it going?" Hannah looked up and smiled. "Hi, Xavier. It's going well, but there's so much to do. I want to make sure every application is perfect." Xavier sat down next to her, looking at the papers spread out on the table. "I know you'll make it, Hannah. Your determination is incredible. Do you need help with anything?" Hannah appreciated the offer and explained what she was working on. Xavier, always willing to help, began reviewing her essays, suggesting improvements and helping her refine her applications. They worked together late into the night, their laughter and conversations filling the quiet library. Days passed quickly, and Hannah continued her hard work, balancing her studies with scholarship applications. At home, her grandmother supported her at every step, providing advice and words of encouragement. "Remember, Hannah, success isn't measured by what you have but by what you overcome," she would say each night before bed. One day, returning from school, Hannah found her grandmother waiting for her with an excited expression. "Hannah, a letter arrived for you," she said, handing her an envelope with the logo of one of the universities she had applied to. With trembling hands, Hannah opened the envelope and read the first lines. Her eyes filled with tears of joy as she read that she had been accepted into the university and had been awarded a scholarship covering most of her expenses. She ran to hug her grandmother, feeling a wave of gratitude and happiness. "I did it, Grandma, I did it," Hannah said through tears, holding the letter with pride. "I knew you would, dear," replied her grandmother with a warm smile and tears in her eyes. "I'm so proud of you." With the scholarship news, Hannah felt her dreams were one step closer to reality. She used the money from the envelope to cover additional expenses, such as books and transportation, and prepared for the next stage of her life with enthusiasm and determination. The graduation day was approaching rapidly. Although Mrs. Lewis's words still echoed in her mind, Hannah was determined to enjoy this achievement. With the support of her grandmother and Xavier, she chose a simple yet elegant dress for the ceremony, making sure every detail was perfect. Months later, on the day of the graduation, Hannah felt nervous but proud. She walked towards the stage with her head held high, knowing she had overcome many obstacles to get there. As she received her diploma, she looked for her grandmother and Xavier among the crowd, their faces filled with pride and joy. After the ceremony, Hannah met up with her grandmother and Xavier. "Thank you for believing in me," she said, hugging them tightly. "We always believed in you, Hannah," replied her grandmother with a smile. "This is just the beginning of many wonderful things to come." With her diploma in hand and the unconditional support of her family and friends, Hannah felt ready to face any challenge that the future might bring. She had proven that with enough determination and love, it was possible to overcome any adversity and achieve the greatest dreams. The fresh morning air filled Hannah's lungs as she walked to the bus stop. It was her first day of work at a small local cafe, an opportunity she had secured thanks to a neighbor's recommendation. Although her studies at the university were her priority, she knew she needed to work to cover additional expenses and continue with her plans. Since receiving the acceptance letter and the scholarship, Hannah had felt a mix of relief and concern. The scholarship covered a large portion of tuition and some living expenses, but there were many other costs not included: books, materials, transportation, and some personal expenses. Her grandmother, despite her sacrifices, could not provide further financial help. Therefore, Hannah had decided to find a part-time job. She wanted to ensure that she could not only support herself, but also ease some of the financial burden on her grandmother. The cafe, called Cafe Hope, was a cozy place with a warm and relaxed atmosphere. The owner, Mr. Martins, was a kind and understanding man who valued effort and dedication. Hannah was grateful for the opportunity to work in such a pleasant place while pursuing her academic dreams. The work was not easy. Hannah was responsible for serving customers, preparing drinks, and keeping the place clean and organized. The hours were long and often exhausting, but Hannah remained steadfast in her determination. She knew that each shift at the cafe brought her one step closer to her goals. Despite the fatigue, she found satisfaction in knowing that she was contributing to her future, and that through her work, she could lighten her grandmother's financial load a little. After her shifts at the cafe, Hannah spent her afternoons at the university, attending classes and studying in the library. The academic challenges were intense, but Hannah was determined to excel. She seized every opportunity to learn and improve, and her professors soon noticed her dedication and passion for knowledge. One day, while Hannah was reviewing her notes in the library, she received a message from Xavier. "How's it going, Hannah? Would you like to grab a coffee and catch up?" Hannah smiled and quickly replied, "Sure, Xavier. See you at Café Hope in an hour." They met at the cafe where Xavier was waiting with a smile. "I've heard you're doing a great job here," he said, as they sat at a table by the window. "Thanks, Xavier. It's been tough, but I'm learning a lot," Hannah responded, grateful for his constant presence and support. Xavier looked at her with admiration. "I always knew you'd achieve great things, Hannah. Your dedication and strength are inspiring." Hannah felt a warmth in her heart at those words. She knew she couldn't have come this far without the support of her grandmother and Xavier. "Thank you, Xavier. I don't know what I'd do without you." Over time, Hannah began to notice the positive impact of her hard work. Her grades improved, and her professors started recommending her for additional scholarships and research programs. Each small success motivated her to keep going, reminding her that her dreams were attainable. One day, after a long day of work and study, Hannah returned home to find her grandmother waiting for her with a surprise. "Hannah, I received a letter today," her grandmother said, with a mysterious smile. "It's from the university. Why don't you open it?" Hannah took the letter, her hands trembling with excitement. As she opened it, she read that she had been selected for a prestigious exchange program abroad. The program would cover all her expenses and allow her to study at a renowned university for a semester. "I can't believe it!" Hannah exclaimed, hugging her grandmother with tears of joy. "This is incredible! Thank you for always believing in me." Her grandmother held her tightly. "I always knew you'd achieve great things, dear. This is just the beginning." With this new opportunity, Hannah felt more motivated than ever. The journey had been tough, filled with obstacles and sacrifices, but each challenge overcome had strengthened her and prepared her for the future. She knew she still had much ahead of her, but with the love and support of her grandmother and friends like Xavier, she was ready to face anything. As she prepared for her adventure abroad, Hannah reflected on everything she had achieved so far. Each step, each sacrifice had been worth it. She felt grateful for the support and love surrounding her and was excited to embrace the new experiences that awaited her. The future was bright, and Hannah was determined to make the most of every opportunity that came her way. Before her departure, Hannah decided to spend quality time with her grandmother and Xavier, who had been her pillars of support throughout her life. She wanted to make sure they knew how much they meant to her and how much she valued their unconditional love and support. One afternoon, Hannah and her grandmother decided to take a walk in the nearby park. The fresh air and the birds' songs provided a calm and relaxing atmosphere. As they walked, Hannah shared her plans and expectations for the exchange program with her grandmother. "Grandma, I still can't believe I'm going to study abroad," Hannah said with a smile. "It's a dream come true." The grandmother smiled, her eyes filled with pride and love. "I knew you would achieve great things, Hannah. I've always believed in you. This is just the beginning of many wonderful things to come." Hannah paused for a moment, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thank you for everything, Grandma. I wouldn't be here without you. I promise I'll do my best to make the most of this opportunity and make you proud." The grandmother hugged her tightly. "I'm already proud of you, dear. I've always been. I know you'll do amazing things." A few days later, Xavier organized a small farewell party for Hannah at Café Hope. They invited some close friends and colleagues. The cafe was decorated with balloons and signs that said, "Good luck, Hannah." The atmosphere was cheerful and festive, filled with laughter and good wishes. During the party, Xavier took the floor and raised his glass for a toast. "I want to say a few words about our friend Hannah," he began, capturing everyone's attention. "Hannah, you have shown incredible dedication and strength. We have all witnessed your hard work and perseverance. I'm sure you'll shine in this new phase of your life. We wish you all the best and hope you'll return with many stories and successes." Hannah was moved by Xavier's words and the applause from her friends. "Thank you, Xavier. Thank you all for being here and for your unconditional support. I couldn't have done it without you. I promise I'll make the most of this opportunity and come back with many stories and achievements to share." That night, Hannah went home feeling stronger and more confident than ever. She knew she had a solid and loving support network backing her every step of the way. Her grandmother's love and Xavier's friendship were crucial to her success and happiness. Finally, the day of departure arrived. Hannah said goodbye to her grandmother at the airport, with tears in her eyes and a promise to keep in touch. "I'll write to you every day, Grandma," Hannah said, hugging her tightly. "I'll tell you all about my life there." The grandmother nodded, trying to hold back her own tears. "I'll be waiting for you, dear. I know you'll do wonderful things." Xavier was also there to say goodbye. "Good luck, Hannah. I'm sure you'll shine. See you soon." With one last hug and farewell, Hannah passed through the boarding gate, her heart full of hope and determination. She knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but with her grandmother's and Xavier's support, she felt ready to face any challenge. The flight to her new destination was long, but Hannah used the time to reflect on everything she had achieved so far. From her days of uncertainty in high school to this moment, she had come a long way. Every obstacle overcome, every sacrifice made, had prepared her for this moment. Upon arriving at her destination, Hannah was overwhelmed by the beauty and novelty of her surroundings. The university was impressive, with historic and modern buildings blending harmoniously. Students from various parts of the world created a vibrant and multicultural environment. Hannah settled into her new accommodation and began preparing for classes. The first week was a mix of orientation, meeting new friends, and adapting to life abroad. Each day, Hannah felt more comfortable and confident in her new life. With every step she took, Hannah remembered her grandmother's and Xavier's words and support. She knew she was not alone on this journey, and that her success would also reflect the love and faith they had placed in her. As she progressed in her exchange program, Hannah faced new academic and personal challenges, but she did so with the same determination and resilience that had brought her this far. She knew she was building a bright future, not only for herself but also for those who believed in her and supported her unconditionally. Hannah was ready to face the future with courage and hope, confident that, with love and determination, she could overcome any adversity and achieve her greatest dreams. Hannah came from a small town in Mexico, a place where everyone knew each other and opportunities were limited. Growing up in such an environment had been both a challenge and a blessing. It had taught her to value every small opportunity and to pursue her dreams with unwavering determination. Now she was in Spain, at the prestigious University of Salamanca, an institution known for its rich history and academic excellence. Arriving here had been a dream come true, a testament to her hard work and her grandmother's and Xavier's unshakable faith. The campus was impressive, with its historic stone buildings and cobbled streets. Hannah marveled at the architecture and the academic atmosphere that pervaded every corner. She knew she was in a place where she could grow and learn, surrounded by students from all over the world. The first week at the University of Salamanca was a mix of orientation and adjustment. Hannah attended informational sessions, met her professors, and began making new friends. The campus's diversity fascinated her. Hearing different accents and learning about various cultures was an enriching experience. One afternoon, after a long day of classes, Hannah sat in a cafe near the campus with some of her new friends. As they shared stories and laughs, Hannah couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to be there. Every conversation, every new friendship was a reminder of how far she had come. The classes at the University of Salamanca were demanding, but Hannah was ready for the challenge. Her days quickly filled with readings, research, and class discussions. Her professors, experts in their fields, inspired her to delve deeper into her studies and think critically. One day, while checking her email in the library, Hannah received a message from one of her professors. She'd been selected to join a research team in economics, an honor reserved only for the most outstanding students. Hannah felt a surge of excitement and pride. She knew this opportunity could open many doors for her future career. During the first research team meeting, Hannah met her teammates and the project's leader, Dr. Ferdinand. He was a passionate man about economics and the social impact of economic policies. "We are here to make a difference," he told them during the meeting. "I want you to think big and work hard. Together, we can achieve great things." Hannah was inspired by Dr. Ferdinand's words. The project they were working on had the potential to influence economic policies and improve living conditions in underserved communities. The idea of contributing to something so significant filled her with enthusiasm. With each passing day, Hannah immersed herself more in her work and studies. Her days began early in the morning and ended late at night, but the exhaustion was worth it. Every advance in her research, every new understanding in her classes, made her feel closer to her dreams. In addition to her academic work, Hannah made sure to stay in touch with her grandmother and Xavier. Every phone call, every message was a source of support and motivation. Her grandmother sent her letters full of love and advice, while Xavier always found time to remind her how proud he was of her. One weekend, Hannah decided to explore more of Salamanca. She walked through its narrow streets, visited the Plaza Mayor, and got lost in the city's charms. Every corner had a story, every building a lesson in history and culture. She felt fortunate to live and study in such a vibrant place. One night, after a particularly productive day in the research lab, Hannah sat at her desk and looked at the notes she had taken. She realized how much she had learned and grown in such a short time. The small town in Mexico felt so far away, but it was also an integral part of who she was. Every step in her journey, every challenge overcome, had brought her to this moment. Hannah knew she still had a long way to go, but she felt more prepared than ever. With her grandmother's and Xavier's unconditional support and the opportunities offered by the university, she was ready to face any obstacle and achieve her goals. The pace of life at the University of Salamanca was fast, but Hannah embraced it with enthusiasm. However, as she delved deeper into her studies and the research project, she also faced new challenges that tested her resilience and determination. The research project she was involved in, Dr. Ferdinand, her mentor, was demanding but fair. Besides the academic challenges, Hannah also faced the nostalgia and loneliness of being away from home. Although she had made friends at the university, she missed the warmth and support of her grandmother and the company of Xavier. Video calls and text messages helped, but they couldn't replace the physical closeness of her loved ones. One weekend, Hannah decided to join an international student club that organized activities and excursions. She thought this might help her make more friends and feel less alone. At one of the meetings, she met Mary, a student from Brazil, and Tomas, a student from Argentina. Both were in similar situations, far from home and facing the same challenges. "It's tough being away from home, isn't it?" Mary commented during one of their conversations. "Yes, it is," Hannah replied, "but it's also an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. I'm trying to make the most of this experience." Tomas nodded. "Exactly. We're here to learn, not just in our classes, but also from our experiences and the people we meet." The new friendships gave Hannah a sense of community and support. Together, they explored Salamanca, attended cultural events, and supported each other in their studies. Hannah realized that even though she was far from home, she wasn't alone. She had found a new family in her international friends. As she progressed in her research project, Hannah also faced academic competition. In a prestigious university like this, all the students were exceptional, which could sometimes be intimidating. But instead of seeing it as a disadvantage, Hannah decided to use it as motivation. She knew she had much to learn from her peers, and that competition could push her to be better. Dr. Ferdinand, recognizing her dedication and progress, gave Hannah more responsibilities in the project. "Hannah, you've shown great ability for rigorous work and attention to detail. I want you to lead this part of the project," he told her one day in a meeting. Hannah accepted the challenge with gratitude and determination. She knew this was an opportunity to prove her worth and contribute significantly to the project. She worked tirelessly, ensuring that every aspect of her work was precise and of high quality. Hannah's efforts began to pay off. Her research was recognized by several professors, and she was asked to present her findings at an academic conference. The news filled her with pride and excitement, but also nerves. She had never spoken in front of such a large and prestigious audience. Xavier and her grandmother were the first to hear the news. "I'm so proud of you, Hannah," Xavier said over the phone. "I knew you would achieve great things. You're going to shine at that conference." "Thank you, Xavier. I'm nervous but also excited. It's a great opportunity," Hannah replied. "Remember, Hannah," her grandmother added, "you've worked very hard to get here. Trust yourself and your abilities. We are with you in spirit." On the day of the conference, Hannah wore her best outfit and walked into the auditorium with her head held high. As she waited for her turn to present, she took a deep breath and remembered her grandmother's and Xavier's words. She stepped onto the stage and began to speak with clarity and confidence, sharing her findings with the audience. At the end of her presentation, she received a warm applause, and several professors approached to congratulate her. Hannah felt euphoric. She knew this was just the beginning of many opportunities and achievements to come. Every challenge Hannah had faced had prepared her for this moment. Her time at the University of Salamanca was not only shaping her academic knowledge, but also her character and resilience. With each step, Hannah proved that with determination, support, and a positive attitude, she could overcome any obstacle and achieve her biggest dreams. With the success of her conference presentation, Hannah felt she had reached a new level of confidence and skill. The University of Salamanca was not only shaping her academic knowledge, but also her character. Every challenge she overcame strengthened her, and every achievement showed her that her effort was worthwhile. As the semester progressed, Hannah realized how much she had grown and changed since her arrival. Her days were still long and busy, but now she faced them with renewed confidence. She had earned the respect of her peers and professors, and her international friends constantly supported and motivated her. One of the most important aspects of her transformation was her ability to balance her academic life with her personal well-being. At first, Hannah had felt overwhelmed by the workload and the pressure of being away from home, but over time, she learned to manage her time more effectively and prioritize her mental and emotional health. Hannah began to participate in extracurricular activities that she was passionate about. She joined a debate club where she could practice her communication and argumentation skills. She also signed up for yoga classes, which helped her relax and maintain balance in her life. These activities not only provided a break from her studies, but also allowed her to meet people with similar interests and expand her social network. One afternoon, while having coffee with Mary and Tomas, they reflected on their experiences in Salamanca. "I've learned so much since I got here," Hannah said, "not just academically, but also about myself. I feel I've grown a lot as a person." "Definitely," Mary agreed. "Being away from home and facing new challenges forces us to adapt and become stronger. I'm proud of what we've achieved." "And the best part is that we're here to support each other," added Tomas. "We've formed a family here, and that's something very special." Hannah nodded, feeling fortunate to have such amazing friends. She knew that her relationships with Mary, Tomas, and the other friends she had made in Salamanca were a crucial part of her experience and personal growth. Meanwhile, in her research project, Hannah continued to take on more responsibilities and challenges. Dr. Ferdinand, impressed by her dedication and skills, offered her the opportunity to co-author an academic paper based on her research. This was an exceptional opportunity for Hannah, as publishing in an academic journal could open many doors for her future career. "Hannah, you've demonstrated great ability for rigorous work and a passion for research," Dr. Ferdinand said during a meeting. "I believe you have the potential to make significant contributions in this field. Would you like to co-author this article with me? Hannah felt honored and excited. It would be an honor, Dr. Ferdinand. I appreciate the opportunity very much and will do my best to live up to it. Working on the academic paper was an intense but rewarding experience. Hannah spent long hours in the library and lab, researching, writing, and revising. Each day, she learned something new, not only about her research topic, but also about academic writing and professional collaboration. As she progressed in her work, Hannah also reflected on her journey from her small town in Mexico to the prestigious University of Salamanca. She remembered the challenges she had faced and overcome, and how each experience had prepared her for this moment. Her grandmother and Xavier were always on her mind, and their calls and messages provided the emotional support she needed. Finally, the academic paper was completed and submitted for review. Hannah and Dr. Ferdinand anxiously awaited the reviewer's response. When the news finally came that the paper had been accepted for publication, Hannah couldn't contain her joy. "We did it!" Hannah exclaimed during a video call with her grandmother and Xavier. "Our paper has been accepted for publication. I can't believe it." "I knew you would do it, Hannah," her grandmother said with a proud smile. "Your hard work and dedication always pay off. I'm so proud of you." "This is just the beginning, Hannah," Xavier added. "You have a bright future ahead. Keep going and never stop believing in yourself." With the article published and her confidence at its peak, Hannah felt she had reached a new level in her personal transformation. Her small town in Mexico remained an integral part of who she was, but she was now also a confident and capable young woman, ready to face any challenge the future might bring. Her experience at the University of Salamanca had been a journey of self-discovery and growth, and Hannah was excited about what lay ahead. She knew that with her determination, support, and passion, she was prepared to continue reaching her dreams and making a difference in the world. After the publication of her academic paper, Hannah felt she was on top of the world. Her time at the University of Salamanca had taught her much about economics and finance, but it had also sparked an entrepreneurial spirit in her. Inspired by her studies and experiences, she began to dream of starting her own business. Hannah had always felt a passion for the economic empowerment of underserved communities. She remembered the difficulties she faced in her small town in Mexico and how many people struggled to find sustainable economic opportunities. She wanted to do something meaningful that could make a difference in the lives of those people. Determined to turn her dreams into reality, Hannah began researching social entrepreneurship and community development. She spent hours in the library, studying success stories of social enterprises and reading about sustainable business models. She knew the path would be challenging, but she was committed to using her knowledge and skills to create something impactful. One day, while attending a conference on social innovation, Hannah met Laura, a social entrepreneur with experience in community development projects in Latin America. Laura was presenting a project she had launched in a small community in Colombia, where she had helped local women start sustainable businesses and improve their living conditions. After the conference, Hannah approached Laura to congratulate her on her presentation and exchange ideas. "Your project is truly inspiring, Laura. I am very interested in social entrepreneurship and would love to learn more about how I can start something similar in my community in Mexico." Laura smiled and handed her a business card. "Thank you, Hannah. I would love to help you on your journey. Why don't we meet for coffee and discuss your ideas in more detail?" During their meeting, Hannah shared her vision of creating a social enterprise to empower women in her hometown. She wanted to provide them with the tools and knowledge needed to start their own businesses, improve their skills, and access sustainable economic opportunities. "That's a wonderful idea, Hannah," said Laura. "Social entrepreneurship can be a powerful tool for change. The most important thing is to have a clear mission and be willing to face the challenges that will come. I'm here to support you in whatever you need." With Laura's support and guidance, Hannah began working on her business plan. Her goal was to create a company that offered training and microloans to entrepreneurial women in her community. She wanted to ensure they had access to resources and mentors who could help them develop their businesses and improve their lives. Hannah dedicated months to planning and preparation, researching the specific needs of her community and establishing contacts with local organizations and potential investors. During this time, she also stayed in touch with her grandmother and Xavier, who supported her unconditionally and were excited about her new project. Finally, the day arrived. With the support of Laura and other mentors, Hannah launched her social enterprise, which she named Empowerment in Action. The launch took place in her small town in Mexico, and the community's response was overwhelming. Women of all ages attended the event, eager to learn and participate in the program. Hannah felt deeply moved by the enthusiasm and hope she saw on the participants' faces. She knew this was just the beginning of a long journey, but she was excited about the impact her company could have on these women's lives and her community. The first few months were a whirlwind of activity. Hannah and her team organized workshops on business skills, finance, and marketing. They also established a microloan fund to help women start their businesses. The work was intense, but each day she saw the results of their efforts in the growth and confidence of the women they were helping. One day during a workshop, Hannah met Mary, a young mother who had struggled to support her family after losing her husband. Mary had a talent for sewing and dreamed of opening her own clothing store, but she had never had the resources or support needed to make it a reality. Hannah worked closely with Mary, providing her with the training and microloan she needed to start her business. Months later, Mary opened her clothing store, and her success inspired other women in the community to pursue their own dreams. Mary's story was just one of many. As Empowerment in Action grew, Hannah saw her company transform lives and strengthen her community. The women participating in the program were not only improving their own lives, but also contributing to the economic and social development of their town. Through this journey, Hannah realized that her experience at the University of Salamanca and her work on the research project had been crucial to her success. She had learned to overcome challenges, work with dedication, and believe in her ability to make a difference. One day, while walking through her community and seeing the stores and businesses that had flourished thanks to Empowerment in Action, Hannah felt a deep sense of gratitude and satisfaction. She knew there was still much work to be done, but she was proud of what she had achieved so far. With her entrepreneurial spirit and passion for empowerment, Hannah was determined to keep moving forward, facing new challenges and creating new opportunities. Her company was a testament to her resilience and determination, and a beacon of hope for many women who, like her, dreamed of a better future. The day of the alumni reunion finally arrived. Hannah prepared carefully, choosing an elegant dress that reflected both her success and her humility. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she thought about her grandmother and everything she had learned from her. She felt a mix of nostalgia and determination. She knew this reunion would be an opportunity to show how much she had grown, not just in terms of achievements, but also as a person. The trip to her old school was a journey to the past, memories of her adolescence filled with challenges and small victories mixed with the reality of her present. When she arrived, the schoolyard and hallways seemed smaller than she remembered, but the feelings of nervousness and excitement were as intense as ever. Entering the gymnasium where the reunion was held, Hannah was greeted by a mix of familiar and new faces. Many of her former classmates were there, some changed more than others. The room was decorated with photos from their school years and banners celebrating the class's achievements. There was an atmosphere of nostalgia and celebration in the air. Hannah greeted several old classmates, sharing hugs and smiles. Many were surprised at how much she had changed. The shy and reserved girl they remembered now presented herself with a confidence and elegance that radiated success and determination. As she chatted with her former classmates, she felt a hand on her shoulder. "Hannah, it's been so long," said a voice that sounded vaguely familiar. Turning around, she saw Mrs. Lewis, her former teacher, the same one who had humiliated her in her youth. "Mrs. Lewis," Hannah replied, her voice full of seriousness, though her memories of the teacher were not the best. "It's a pleasure to see you again." "Do you like my dress?" Hannah asked, alluding to the time when the teacher had humiliated her. Mrs. Lewis looked away, embarrassed, realizing her past mistakes. Now, these mistakes were giving her a lesson. Mrs. Lewis looked at her with surprise and admiration. "I've heard many good things about you, Hannah. I'm glad to know you've achieved so much." Hannah smiled, recalling that painful moment when the teacher had belittled her. She decided to seize this opportunity to show how she had overcome those difficult times. "Thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Life has been a journey full of challenges, but overcoming them is what has brought me success." The conversation was brief but meaningful. Hannah felt she had closed a painful chapter of her past, demonstrating that she had overcome adversity with grace and success. Mrs. Lewis, visibly impressed, said goodbye with a smile and words of admiration. As the evening went on, Hannah found herself surrounded by friends and former classmates. Xavier, who had also attended the reunion, approached with a broad smile. "I knew you'd stand out, Hannah. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, Xavier," Hannah replied, feeling grateful for his constant support. "I couldn't have come this far without you and my grandmother." Xavier hugged her tightly. "Your grandmother would be very proud of you. Everything you've achieved is a testament to your effort and the values she instilled in you." The reunion continued with speeches and presentations, highlighting the achievements of many alumni. When it was Hannah's turn to speak, she stood up confidently and walked to the stage. The room fell silent as she took the microphone. "Good evening, everyone," Hannah began, looking at the familiar faces around her. "It's an honor to be here today and share this moment with all of you. I want to talk about the journey I've been on and what I've learned along the way." Hannah recounted her story, from her humble beginnings in the small town in Mexico, her time at the University of Salamanca, and the creation of Empowerment in Action. She spoke of the challenges, victories, and lessons learned. Each word was filled with sincerity and emotion. "But more than anything," Hannah continued, "I want to honor my grandmother's memory. She was my greatest inspiration and the reason I am here today. Her love and teachings guided me every step of the way. This achievement is not just mine, but also hers." The room erupted in applause as Hannah finished her speech. She felt emotional and grateful. She knew her grandmother would be proud of her, and that thought gave her a deep sense of peace and satisfaction. At the end of the night, as she said goodbye to her former classmates and friends, Hannah realized how far she had come. She had faced countless challenges, but had also received unconditional love and support. She was ready to move forward, carrying with her the lessons from her grandmother and the strength of her spirit. The alumni reunion had been more than just an event. It was a celebration of everything she had achieved and a reaffirmation of her mission. With her grandmother's love and legacy always in her heart, Hannah knew she could face any challenge and continue making a difference in the world. The alumni reunion had been a success and a significant moment of reflection and celebration for Hannah. Upon returning home, she felt more empowered and motivated than ever. She continued working tirelessly on her social enterprise, expanding her reach and touching even more lives in her community. Her journey was far from over, but with each step, she honored the legacy of her grandmother and the values that had shaped her. Meanwhile, Hannah continued to inspire her community with her example. Her achievements were not only recognized in her hometown, but also began to attract national media attention. Soon, she received an invitation to speak at a social entrepreneurship conference in Mexico City. At the event, Hannah shared her story with an enthusiastic audience. She spoke about the challenges she had faced, the unconditional support of her grandmother and Xavier, and how she had turned her vision into a reality that benefited so many women. "True success," Hannah said during her speech, "is not only measured by what we achieve, but by the impact we have on the lives of others." After her speech, many people approached her to congratulate her and express how much her story had inspired them. Hannah felt grateful for the opportunity to share her experience and for the chance to motivate others to follow their dreams no matter how difficult the circumstances. Upon returning to her small town, Hannah found a letter on her desk. It was from a young woman who had attended her conference. The letter read, "Dear Hannah, thank you for sharing your story. You have inspired me to believe in myself and to keep fighting for my dreams. Your strength and determination are an example of what we can achieve with love and effort. I want to be like you and help my community. Thank you for being a light on my path. With gratitude, Mary." Mary's words resonated deeply with Hannah. She knew that, although she had achieved much, her true legacy lay in the lives she had touched and the inspiration she had given to others. She remembered her grandmother's words and felt more connected than ever to her mission. Over time, Empowerment in action grew and thrived, helping thousands of women across Mexico. Hannah became a respected and admired figure in the field of social entrepreneurship, but never forgot her roots or the lessons of humility and compassion she had learned from her grandmother. One day, while walking through her community and seeing the flourishing businesses and the smiles of the women she had helped, Hannah stopped in front of Mary's clothing store, the young mother who had been one of the first to benefit from her program. Mary saw her and ran out to embrace her. "Hannah, thank you for everything you've done," Mary said with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "You've not only changed my life, but also that of my family. We owe you so much." Hannah smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. "You don't owe me anything, Mary. Everything you achieved was due to your own effort and determination. I just gave you a little push." At that moment, Hannah realized that she had come full circle. She had emhanaged to transform her own life and, in the process, had touched the lives of many others. Her grandmother would be proud of her, and Hannah knew that her spirit would always be with her. Hannah's legacy was one of resilience, love, and dedication. She had shown that, no matter how difficult the circumstances, with enough effort and support, any dream could become a reality. And so, with her grandmother's memory always in her heart, Hannah continued to work tirelessly to empower more women and build a better future for her community. Her story was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the importance of never giving up. Hannah had faced many challenges but had emerged with grace and success, becoming an example of resilience and determination for all who knew her. And so, with every step she took, she continued to make a difference in the world, one life at a time. Thank you for joining us in this story. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell to not miss more narrated stories. See you next time.